Okay, greetings and welcome to a special episode of the Eccentric Perspective. It is Wednesday, August 6th of 2025. I'm your host, Blake Wally. Today I've got a special guest, Gene Owens,
Thanks
musical.
for having me, Blake. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So, looking forward to this show and have him ride shotgun. We're going to cover some of the top stories of the day, latest news and current events, and then we'll get into some of the musical adventures of Gene Owens, his band Faithless Town. So here we go. Here's the thumbnail for today. Some of the top stories, the hoaxes, propaganda, musical activism, little South Park, RussiaGate, Howard Stern, and this little Nancy Mace, little photo op. And the headlines for today on tap. So should we release the RussiaGate hoaxers to prevent backlash? And South Park, have they sold out and they now spit out propaganda? And Howard Stern, is he getting canceled for being too edgy? In Congress, have they become a side gig for social media influencers? And of course, the live studio interview with Gene Owens of Faithless Town. That's what's on tap. Oh, and hello, we've got TK Mark asking me already. Good afternoon. Any arrests? It's funny we mentioned that.
I highly doubt there have been any arrests. I'm very, I don't think even cynical is the right word for this, for my feelings about all of it. I just feel like when you try to get the government to hold the government accountable, that never really works out.
Yeah, it hasn't been, and it hasn't gone our way in decades, and I don't know if it ever will. And there's people all over the spectrum of the hopium dealers and trust the plan and everything's going to work out, to the very pessimists that just think nothing will ever happen. And each opinion is valid. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic because there are a lot of good developments happening. However, there's been some setbacks along the way as well. And the Babylon Bee is having a little fun here with that. So click here for a updated number of corrupt government officials who have been arrested for Russia collusion hoax. And so far, the counter stuck on 0. We're still waiting, which is, I know TK Mark is not as patient as some. But I can't blame them. It does feel like it's two tiers here, and that the elites are just going to rule over the peasant class forever. But so where do you sit, Gene, on this particular topic?
On the RussiaGate?
And just, you think that there's ever going to be people held accountable? Not to hold your feet to the fire, but where do you think the RussiaGate thing is going to go? You think that's going to lead finally to break through and arrest somebody that high profile, or is it going to go away like all the rest?
I think it's just going to go away like all the rest, but once it serves its full purpose. And I think that purpose is just distraction, to be honest. Like ever since the beginning of all that, I was living in Los Angeles at the time when all that began, and all these, surrounded by a lot of leftists and a lot of woke people, and they were convinced that this was going to be the thing that impeaches Trump and gets rid of him. To me, it's all professional wrestling. It's just a big distraction to keep everybody caught up in this, thinking that, the side that you don't agree with, they're going to be held accountable. They're going to go to jail. They're going to get arrested. The way the lefties look at Trump, and they're like, Trump's a convict and he's going to eventually be behind bars. And then the people on the right and the Qs and stuff that think Obama and the Clintons are going to be put before a military tribunal. I hate to break it to everybody, but neither of those things is going to happen. And I think, I just think there's a two-party illusion. I think it's the illusion of choice. And I think behind closed doors, probably the Obamas and the Trumps are throwing back drinks together and going golfing. I mean, I definitely know with the Clintons. I mean, he was very buddy. I mean, he even donated, tons of money to Hillary's campaign.
Yeah, he definitely kind of plays both sides, and it's debatable. And some people think that he's, controlled by other interests. It's hard to say. And I have shared that.
Hi, Deb from Stack.
Yeah,
Thank you for
hello.
welcoming me.
Great to have Deb in. Hello. And guys out there, feel free to ask any questions you may have for Gene. Definitely going to be playing one of his videos here coming up, getting him
this
into
is
more
hilarious
of the stuff. Yeah,
I'm sorry to catch up. I just noticed the Hitler Babylon Bee spoof there in reference to the whole Sydney Sweeney thing. Wow.
Right. No,
And
everyone's
also even the Sydney Sweeney stuff is all that outrage even real, or is that just like what marketing is now? Are there marketing execs, some agency, where they're like, we gotta they pay influencers to pretend to be outraged, and then it kind of just, and then there are the people that just naturally fall for it, or the people that just want to jump on the bandwagon. But I wonder, that stuff even real to begin with, or is it just part of a marketing ploy to get people talking about the ad and talking about Sydney Sweeney, talking about the jeans?
It's possible it could be playing some of that 4D chess. It's hard to say, and there's always the leftist outrage at just about anything they can, and I'm sure they're still freaking out about this a bit. And the right has been having a field day with it, and now everybody's kind of trolling and having some fun with it, including that is backlash on Nancy Mace that'll come up. It's a quick story, so yeah, that's an interesting angle on it. That this could be astroturfed, but they've done well on that, as opposed to say Jaguar with that disaster that they had, which is probably going to destroy their company. And
I think a lot of that is like legit intentional to destroy iconic brands, iconic franchises. I mean, we definitely see it all the time with film. Things like Star Wars, where it went from A New Hope and Harrison Ford to, literally killing Han Solo, making him like this weak cuck whose, whole story arc meant nothing. And now it's just like black Jedi lesbians. I think it's intentional. I think they know other than a very small percentage of the public wants that. I think it's about, destroying those things, destroying the old myths, destroying the iconic brands, all the things that kind of kept us as like one cohesive culture for so long.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that, and I'm very concerned, of course, with Disney. Has just made another giant purchase with ESPN, getting the NFL, and I believe wrestling. I don't really watch wrestling anymore, except for the Royal Rumble once a year. But yeah, it's alarming, and they've destroyed the franchise of Star Wars. I have not seen all of the latest woke stuff, because now I feel like I'm going to have to subscribe finally to Disney Plus if I can watch NFL. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to shake out just yet. I still hope I'm just getting my red zone this year, and I'll worry about it next year. But I also have to order a Paramount, apparently, because I have to watch South Park to see what all the fuss is about lately. We'll get into that. But I also want to just check. Do you think Trump is part of that establishment? Which I'm not exactly 100%. Just to going back a little bit, because I've always looked at it as, you're right. It's a two-party system that works together, where it doesn't matter if you vote for Obama or Hillary or Jeb Bush or Marco Rubio or Mitt Romney, what have you, because they control all of the candidates. But a lot of people do see Trump as potentially his own man. He is an outsider, although he does, play ball with the two political parties. It seems like they're also trying to destroy him. And then going into the the RussiaGate thing, it's like they absolutely kneecapped him, tried to sabotage him, have done all the lawfare, and then tried to blow his head off.
Well, even that's debatable, right? I mean,
Right.
if you want to look at everything with a suspicious or with a skeptical mind, I should say, I mean, all that is kind of that is a lot of that is up for debate. But like,
Certainly.
I think if you, I think one, I think the president has very little, has very limited power. And I think they are just a figurehead. And I think you are so compromised and controlled by the time you get to the office of president, that I don't think you really have any power to change things on to any magnitude. And I think, when the last time somebody tried that was in that position was JFK, and they blew his brains out in broad daylight in Dallas. I think that was the last time we had a president that went off script. And ever since, they are completely controlled. And I think Trump is no different. I do think, I get he's presented as being this outsider that's going to shake up the system and drain the swamp, but he hasn't done any of those things. And if you look back, I mean, he still brags about the COVID vaccine, which has killed or harmed countless people, millions of people, literally millions of people have either been killed or harmed by those injections. He still brags about them. He still takes credit for them. And even COVID, all the insanity of COVID, which was the greatest government overreach that we've seen in our lifetime, and probably the most insane government overreach since like the internment camps of World War II, in even a larger magnitude, because they locked everybody up, and they shuttered churches. They made you show papers in some places to leave to go shopping, to go to a restaurant. It was insane to see a ban, and all that happened. The bulk of that happened. The whole COVID hoax, in my opinion, happened during Trump's last term, his first term. And I think it would have been a much different outcome and a different response from the public if Hillary Clinton had been president and they tried to pull those lockdowns and all the COVID insanity. I think it would have been a much different reaction from the public. But because there were so many people on the right and so many libertarian-minded people that saw Trump as being in their camp, that he was going to look out for them, and he was fighting against, the deep state and all these, but he wasn't. I mean, Fauci was the head of his coronavirus task force, along with Deborah Birx. He awarded Fauci, a Medal of Honor before he left office. I mean, those are the inconvenient truths to the people that want to support Trump and want to believe in him as the savior. But the reality is no one's coming to save us. Like, we have to save ourselves. We have to organize on local levels. We have to create our own parallel systems, because there's no politician that's going to save us. And I think if we could really change anything by voting, it would be illegal. They wouldn't let us do it. They let us do it because it gives us the illusion of choice and the illusion that we can influence things at the ballot box. I really don't think we can. Maybe minimally on a local level, on a small level, but when it comes to president, no, I don't think so.
Okay, no, I mean, I guess I'll agree to disagree a little bit on that, because I do see Trump as the outsider that they did not want. They just wanted to set it up as Hillary, Jeb Bush, or Romney, or who have you, and then it didn't matter to them. Vote for which puppet on which hand. So I've got to keep a little faith in that. Although there's plenty of room to criticize Trump, absolutely. So it's all fair game. We're all still trying to find the answer.
COVID vaccine. Like, why does he not admit that the COVID vaccine has hurt people and that it wasn't a great accomplishment? And this, why does he still brag about it? If he is a good guy, looking at
right. I think he plays both sides, but I mean, on the other, looking at the other angle, he did put RFK in there, so he does have somebody who is doing something about big pharma, allegedly, hopefully. Some people are saying maybe he's compromised, or other people are sabotaging his agenda too. I don't know. So I do like what he's done with, Tulsi Gabbard's doing some good work. I still have faith in Kash Patel. At least, there is an illusion where I can still try to believe that things are going to work out for America. It's what I've always thought, is that, Trump could be out retired, but he actually volunteered to try to save America. But the corrupt elites, want to take him out. I don't know, but I mean,
Well, yeah, I think we'll agree, we can disagree on that. Agree to disagree on that. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways too, Trump is like what Obama was to the left. Like Obama was this outsider. Nobody had ever really heard of him, and he was coming in with all these radical things that he was going to shake up. He was, change was his motto, and they had those like, those Shepherd Ferry posters that were very kind of like, communist looking. But the left believed that this guy was going to really shake up the system. He was going to close Guantanamo Bay. He was going to end the foreign wars. He ended up killing more people with drones and kept Guantanamo Bay open. And he was going to repeal and end the Patriot Act. He didn't. He was going to stop the NSA wiretapping. It's like those same promises are like on the other side of Trump. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to defeat the deep state. But in reality, none of that happens. And that's where I think it is this illusion where they get people caught up into it and thinking that one of these two parties is in their corner and fighting for their interests. And I think they're fighting for the interest of the 1% elite, bloodline psychopaths, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you could absolutely be right. And that was kind of my philosophy for a long time. And I'm still trying to keep some faith with Trump. But yeah, we'll see what happens with these investigations, whether anything comes out of the Epstein or the Russia hoaxers, because now it is shown that they were internally went out to sabotage Trump. So I don't know if they would have done something like this to Jeb Bush. Would they have gone to this length to try to smear him as colluding with Russia?
But like all that stuff, but all that makes him look like the outsider, right? Isn't that like that helps reaffirm that belief? Like if they were like, we're fine with Trump, he's been a reality star. Like if the left didn't have this crazy reaction to him and they weren't constantly going after him, it wouldn't sell it to those that want to believe that he is really an outsider shaking up the system, going after, the evil deep state. The fact that there's, criminal, Fulton County brought charges against him and, they've impeached him and they're trying to impeach him again. And they're trying to constantly arrest him, and the RussiaGate, constantly trying to fight him and discredit him. Like, it's just, you see that the media has never treated a president like this. And we know the media, like things like Operation Mockingbird, they're all infiltrated by alphabet agencies.
Yeah,
but by the three-letter agencies.
They hate Trump.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they? But
right.
I don't know.
How about one more quick curveball on that? We don't want to take up all the time on this, but would there have been a COVID lockdown if Hillary had won in 2016? Would we have had the same the COVID thing with Fauci and everything for 2020 if Hillary was in?
I think people would have resisted personally a lot more.
No, but I mean, would there not have been any COVID at all? Would it never have come to fruition? There would be no lockdown because Hillary would just be running on her second term. Or do you think that maybe they did the rollout with the lab leak that Fauci was funding gain of function research right there in Wuhan, and then that gave him an excuse to do the lockdown, the drop boxes, and perhaps swing the election with 81 million votes and the shenanigans that potentially happened in 2020. But they wouldn't have needed to do that. Perhaps to get rid of Trump. I don't know. But I mean, going to RussiaGate, taking him off the field for 2 years and kind of pinning him down and interrogating him and his whole family and his associates.
I don't. To me, it's just like it's professional wrestling, man. It's like when the Undertaker and Jake the Snake. It's like when the cameras aren't on, they're hanging out, they're friends. But of course, when the cameras are on, it's like I'm gonna smash you. I'm gonna you disrespected my wife, or whatever the narrative is of that that role playing, that fiction. I think that's what this is. It's this fiction of like they're really coming after and they're going to get them. And that's not to say there's not real true believers like in Congress and in the Senate and in the Democrat Party, of course. I mean, I think they truly believe that Trump is Hitler and an evil dictator, and they have to do everything they can to take him out. I mean, the Trump derangement syndrome is a real phenomenon, but also I think the Trump savior syndrome is a real phenomenon. And I think both are psychoses. that's how you say
Okay.
that word. Psychosis.
Let's roll with it. I like it. All right. But I hear you. So a lot of concerns, and we'll see. We'll see what happens with RussiaGate if they actually do take down some people with that. Going to go into maybe a couple of the highlights just quickly to cover it. So, stipulating the Justice Department as Obamagate's orchestrators dead to rights on the law. Can it satisfy the relevant statute of limitations and can successfully bring suit in jurisdictions where the plaintiffs can get a fair shake? Imagine if the Trump DOJ could secure convictions and send top deep staters to jail. The regime would almost certainly blanket the airwaves with the most aggressive possible propaganda, unleash a massive wave of violent street agitation, and likely engage in insurrection-level action from within the federal government. The regime would likely achieve new heights of hysteria and extremism and inflict new levels of damage on our country. So I think it's just talking about the potential consequences of if they actually really lock down on these deep staters, Brennan, Comey, Hillary, or what have you, and then you would see some major backlash with the paid activists and the weaponized mockingbird media, of course. So would they? I guess that's kind of the question. Should we just release the RussiaGate hoaxers to prevent the potential backlash that it would lead to? Or do you just let the elites just get away with whatever they want and never face accountability? Kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Well, so these quote RussiaGate hoaxers, are there people actually in jail right now? Have there been people arrested for propagating that hoax? Or like, honestly, I don't know. I really haven't been following the story that closely. So,
oh, okay. Well, Tulsi Gabbard. So they found like this burn bag of this evidence, knowing that they cooked up the Russia scandal. So they knew that the Steele dossier and some of this evidence was suspicious, but they used it anyway so that they could undermine Trump and basically destroy him, and then paint this picture that he was, on the Kremlin payroll and that he was, on Putin's Putin's
right,
bench.
yeah, no, I'm familiar with RussiaGate in general, but like, have there been actual arrests, like in terms of, you're saying like release them? Have there been people actually incarcerated, or are they bringing charges against anybody for? And what would those charges be?
Treason, yeah, like the seditious conspiracy. They can't go past the statute of limitations because it's still ongoing. They're still conspiring to act like Russia colluded with the Russians. But where was I? I guess got sidetracked. So they're going to subpoena them. They're going to, or not subpoena them, but they're going to go to a grand jury, and I guess they're going to take it down to Florida so they don't have their home security there in D.C., where they would they would get away with whatever they wanted to. So that could lead to something. Now, it's not necessarily going to go to Obama because he has immunity, but it could absolutely target Hillary Clinton and John Brennan and Jim Comey, because it looks like they absolutely conspired. They went against the intelligence community assessment that they had, where it said that there was no collusion going on, but they still went with that anyway. They used the information they wanted, discarded the rest, threw their own kind of intelligence community under the bus to go with their preferred narrative, to support Hillary, and also to get the heat off of her because she was dealing with the email scandal, and then just twist the whole thing.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hold your breath. But
okay, all good, no worries.
I admire your optimism, but I wouldn't hold your breath.
Fair enough. All right. Let's move on. How about South Park? You've kept up with South Park over the years?
I have to say,
it's been like for me, it's from my childhood, or when they first started, huge until like several years ago when they kind of fell off the face of the earth for me, because I think they went into streaming and what have you, and then I was too busy doing other stuff. But just got signed to a monster new contract. We're going to be doing pop culture stuff for the next, who knows how many years.
An insane contract, right? Isn't it like $1 billion? Like
I think it's 1.5.
$1.5 billion. Like that doesn't even sound like a real number. I mean,
Right.
that's crazy. I can't even imagine how much money that is. But I have to say, I've been a lifelong South Park fan. You know, I like the fact that they've kind of always gone after everyone. You know, nobody's ever been safe, whether it was Scientologist, whether it was the trans activist. Like nobody's ever been safe. Republicans, Democrats. That's what I've respected about them. You know, they haven't had like a strong bias one way or another. They've kind of they haven't discriminated on who they poke fun at and who they satirize.
Okay, I will take your word for that because I have not watched it in the last several years, like outside of like maybe just a couple of random shows. But I noticed this is a video clip from Tim Pool like last week. Would contradict you a little bit, saying that there was no attacking of Kamala or Biden during those years. I can't verify because I wasn't watching it, but I'm going to run a quick clip. Actually, this is a good test clip because I know we had some trouble with the audio yesterday. So hopefully Deb or Mark or somebody out there can confirm whether we can hear this clip. Here we go.
Did you guys know that there's never been a single episode of South Park targeting Joe Biden or Kamala Harris?
I wasn't irrelevant.
Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years, and he was president for 4, and South Park did not ever mock Biden or Harris. And according to social media reports, I asked ChatGPT, it says the creators opted not to target Harris in the 2024 cycle.
Wow.
Funny, how about that?
Don't know. Can't confirm. However, that would be alarming to me because, yes, I would agree with you. Historically, they attacked everybody, and they were awesome. And I agreed with them probably 90, 95% of the time on things. But that would be weird if it's just, just one-sided attacks on Trump and then letting the obvious. There was comedy gold with Kamala and Joe Biden, or even son Hunter Biden. So
yeah.
But I can't say whether they touched it or not. But I mean, that should have been something they would hammer on. But have these sold out? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come to think of it, I mean, I just tried to look it up too, and because I couldn't recall any episodes. But then, like you said too, it's like they haven't been doing like exact seasons. They kind of went to these things where they were just doing like these movies, like they did a pandemic movie, they did a COVID,
Yeah. I think I saw one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, but before that, they were actually doing regular episodic television. So I don't know, but yeah, I guess they have. And I mean, Joe Biden was it was ripe for parody. I mean, the guy was senile. It was sad. It was, it was like seeing your great grandfather with dementia being put up on stage. I think that was the point of all of it. I really just don't think any of these things are just by chance that, you have Mr. Magoo as the president. I think that was a demoralization campaign, it was to show you like, and almost like the real power, like the wizard behind the curtain kind of winking at you, peeking through the curtain and saying, the president's not really in charge. You think there's a guy that's like crapping his pants and doesn't know which way to exit this stage, and is talking about like the hair on his legs and his buddy Corn Pop from the hood. Bro, like, do you think he's in charge? Like, I think it's them like literally letting you know that the president's not in charge and that you have no power here. He has no power there.
Oh, they called you a deep fake conspiracy theorist. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that there actually were like multiple Bidens, and who knows? Now the AI is so good. I mean, yeah, who knows?
Yeah, they could probably do something differently if they had the technology now. But yeah, they went out of their way to pretend like everything was fine, even though we could see it for years as he was struggling, was upstairs or with his note cards, couldn't take any questions. It was so obvious. And then when you're calling it out, come on, guys. And then they're saying, no, those videos, those are cheap fakes. Like, we're just lying to everybody. We're just delusional. So they were just gaslighting. And then the auto pen scandal. There's a lot of material there as well. And they
I mean, it's like Soviet levels, it's like USSR levels of propaganda of the gaslighting. It was like making you question your own eyes, question what you're seeing, and just believe them, believe the New York Times, believe the Washington Post. And I mean, I think that's the peak of that was COVID. Because to me, there was no pandemic. It was just if it hadn't been constantly on repeat with the death ticker going across the bottom of the screen on every major news outlet and every publication talking about this is the deadliest pandemic in 100 years, no one would have known that there was anything new in the air, anything new that was killing anybody. I mean, I hung out at that time with a bunch of boomer conservatives, and they were like in the most, the vulnerable groups. They were the people that were gonna kick from this, and they're all still alive. And we never stopped living our lives during that time. So anyway, getting back to South Park, it is kind of wild that they didn't make fun of Kamala or Biden. And who knows? Maybe they do have a little bit of TDS too, some Trump derangement syndrome, Matt and Trey. But I will say throughout the years, they've been pretty good at going after everybody. And the stuff in recent years with like the transgender activists, they literally have like the Macho Man, Randy Savage, is like one of these trans women that's like beating the crap out of every other female, athlete. And they have the PC babies. They're are parroting the whole woke movement, literally calling them like babies, where they just cry if somebody doesn't use the preferred pronouns.
Yeah, no, they've done some outstanding work. I'll never take anything away from them, but I'm definitely concerned that maybe they've potentially sold out. They got that $1.5 billion, but it's hard to blame them if that's what's going on behind the scenes. They got to play those politics, and we've seen stuff happen with similar people I've respected. Like Jimmy Kimmel was a legend, and then he sold out and became a total hack propagandist. Even Stephen Colbert, who I wasn't a huge fan of, but this woke activist stuff. So that's concerning. And then Howard Stern, another one. So somebody who was a legend I grew up with, who became somebody that he used to hate. It's weird watching some of these people. They get so much money. And Howard, I forget what his initial like Sirius XM contract was. Wasn't it like $1 billion, or it's like 500 million? And now the South Park's got $1.5 billion. Yeah, it's insane. And there must be some compromise if they're going to get that kind of money, but I don't actually know. So here it is. Also, the in the news is that Sirius XM is going to cancel the Howard Stern show after 20 years on the radio. They no longer want to pay it. Was it $100 million a year? I don't know if they couldn't get the exact number, but just it's not worth the investment. Same with Colbert. They were losing tons of money. Some were speculating maybe the USAID money. I don't know.
Who still listens to Howard Stern? Like, I don't know anybody. Like, I used to listen to Howard Stern, whatever, like 20 years ago, but who still listens to him? And especially since COVID, I mean, he became such a propagandist and so vile towards anyone who questioned the narrative and anybody that didn't want to get that experimental injection that was literally created by DARPA. Like you saw my tweet today. One of his quotes basically saying the unvaccinated should not be allowed in hospitals. Yeah, there. He said, if it was up to me, anyone unvaccinated would not be admitted to a hospital. You're going home to die and die.
Yeah, no, he's a notorious germ freak, but he took it to a whole different level with that during the COVID thing. I was a huge fan, like in the 90s. Once he went to like the XM Sirius, I didn't follow him as much. That's kind of when I got the XM set. When I finally got into that, it was like a big breakthrough back in those days. Then I kind of started listening to Opie and Anthony, and then Howard Stern was just. Everything he did was just like this pervy, trying to humiliate girls to get boob jobs. And it was just like, it was fun when I was a teenager, and then it started getting really kind of cringy. So I've tuned out it for a long time, but he was a legend back in the day when his, one of his big books came out. I went out and bought it. which is the private parts, and then they made the movie.
Yeah.
And I had the music, like it was like a huge thing, and I was so excited when he came to Minnesota radio, and I was up at 6 a.m. to hear his first broadcast. But I mean, that's, again, when I was a much younger man. But yeah, he's had a great career. He has been notoriously, anti-establishment for that time. He was the rebel crusader. Everybody loved him. And then he just like turned into a washed up sellout, and then just kind of became irrelevant. And then he also alienated like half of his base by going after, with his TDS and of course the vaccine insanity. So yeah, now he's it's probably spiraling out. It's the end of his career. So it's too bad. It's an unceremonious ending. Yeah, the original shock jock. But I don't know if I'll run this clip. But he also ran cover for Joe Biden. Should have been easy, but. Yeah, it's weird watching some of these guys, or even like Colbert, and they'll sit there and they'll have these little softball interviews with Joe Biden, and then they have TDS for Trump. Also, just a quick note, just to try to remember the good days. I like this tweet from Autism Capital saying how that Howard Stern really was the GOAT, and the irony is that new school Howard would cancel old school Howard. This always happens when someone becomes a legend, but they want to keep the money flowing. They get past the point of being a rebel outsider and become a famous insider, and then ultimately become the thing they previously hated. So it's the life cycle of a shock jock. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, all the so-called rebels, we saw their true colors over the last 5 years. I mean, I think COVID was a great revealer of people's real character, and I definitely saw it in the world of music. All these punk rockers, all the rebels, they were all telling you, go get your injection, your government sponsored injection, and then show your papers to go see their show. Or the Offspring kicking out Pete Parada, their drummer, because he didn't want to get the injection. He's actually had horrible adverse reactions to other vaccines. And literally it has like a note from his doctor saying like this other ingredient might just kill me instantly. And they're like, oh, okay, well, you're fired. And here's some other guy that'll either, fake his papers or he'll get injected. Now I think it was the last few years have been really revealing.
Oh, absolutely. People lost their damn minds in 2020. Yeah, I was a front row seat to that because we were both in LA, and that's probably how we both ended up in Tennessee years later. I escaped the lockdown right away. I lost all of my jobs. I didn't want to get stuck in LA, and I didn't want to be, coerced into getting this experimental medication so that I could continue, doing things in my line of work. But I mean, it was cool, like being there and how eerie it was. Like when all the traffic cleared up, like being in LA after the lockdown.
How long did you stay after things locked down? I think things went into lockdown there like March 18th or 19th of 2020. Yeah. How long did you stay? Because I left a few days after they locked everything down because I was convinced that I was going to end up in jail if I stayed. Like they were arresting people for going on hikes in the canyons. They were arresting people. They arrested that paddleboarder out in Malibu. He's just completely out by himself. They sent like the Coast Guard to get this guy.
Yeah, you couldn't even go to the beach anymore. Any of them.
So I left a few days, and I remember we flew out. I have a video on my Twitter at Faithless Town, but it was like me and my wife and our cats in carriers, and we're at the gate at LAX waiting to fly to Atlanta. And normally, right, there'd be like hundreds, 1,000 people there between all those gates. There's not a soul. It was complete. It was a complete ghost town. It was completely deserted.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting time. And then, and then just having to leave all of a sudden, it just upended everybody's life.
But yeah, so how long did you stay after like things went crazy there?
Okay, so I had like right at that time, I had just gotten hired at the. Do you remember the Sky Center, the U.S. Bank Tower, the tallest building in L.A.?
Yep.
I had just gotten hired as a bartender on the 69th floor. I was going to do the 69th and the 70th floor, And then like 2 weeks later, all of a sudden, like the everything happened. So it went down like right during like March Madness after I'd gotten this new job, which was great because it helped me get unemployment during those times because it got weird. But it was probably a few months. I don't think it was till June, and then I ended up going to Austin for a few months, which was also weird because they were more strict in Austin. I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to Texas, so it'll be free. No, it was even worse than LA. And then I ended up going to Tennessee, just to make a long story short. But then things were like normal and free. But
I ended up coming back to Athens, Georgia, and Athens was as bad as LA. Like because it's this super woke college town. So I mean, like the councilwoman for my neighborhood, she like got sworn in on Malcolm X's autobiography, and she was leading the BLM rallies with the mayor of the city during the George Floyd riots. But yeah, so Athens was just as bad, if not worse, than LA. And yeah, so many small businesses lost everything during that time. I think it's so easy to like move on and try not to remember because that was such a traumatic time. But like when we talk about accountability, and that's kind of where we started our conversation talking about RussiaGate. For me, the real accountability that I care about is the COVID accountability. I want people to be held accountable for what they did during that period. I mean, people weren't allowed to see their loved ones on their deathbed. People weren't allowed to see their elderly family members that were in nursing homes. They had people like visiting for a year through glass. So many people died deaths of loneliness and despair. A friend of mine OD'd on heroin during that time because he lost his whole social network. I mean, it was a horrible time. And I want to see accountability for that, for all the lives, the businesses, for everything that they ruined. I want to see the Faucis and the Birxes and the Gavin Newsoms, of the world be held accountable.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know where that's been because I haven't heard much of it. The only one that's running the crusade that I've seen is Rand Paul trying to get some accountability. But yeah, Fauci's been off the radar for too long. So yeah, it's time to go after him. And then, spreading the hoax that, this Wuhan lab.
They gave him that blanket immunity, right? Wasn't that like Biden's one of his last acts as president?
Right.
But he gave him like a preemptive pardon. That's what it was, a preemptive pardon. Like you only pardon people that are criminals or, people that are going to be facing criminal charges. The fact they just gave him a blanket preemptive pardon is very telling. Oh, absolutely. So there's definitely deliberate there, but the problem they have is that could come undone as it's being. That's one of the other scandals they've got rolling around is the auto pen, and that clearly Joe Biden. They say the only pardon that was actually legitimately signed by his hand was for his son Hunter, and that all of the other pardons were just done behind closed doors with different staffers amongst the White House, people that we don't even know their names. They've been subpoenaed, so they're working on it. So if they can, undo that pardon, then they can certainly drop the hammer on Fauci. So hopefully we'll get some accountability at some point. Okay, well, I guess let's move on real quick. I don't know if there's one. We'll touch on one. We want to get to the music stuff. I'm sure, but just since it's on the agenda. Okay, well, so we had South Park sold out, now spits out propaganda, perhaps. But I am going to sign up for Paramount just so I can catch the latest show and see what's going on, get the real scoop. And we got Howard Stern getting canceled for being too edgy. No, not anymore. He's getting canceled because he's alienated half his base. Half his base is probably dying. He's not relevant anymore, not worth the money. And Congress, they become a side gig for the social media influencers. Jasmine Crockett has been under fire from the left, and Nancy Mace on the right, as she's trying to do the Sydney Sweeney thing in her jeans. She's getting mocked for this photo. So, anyway.
But it seems like, yeah, are they more concerned about being social media influencers and being famous? And is Congress just their side gig, or do they actually care about their constituents and doing great things for the American people? What do you think?
Oh, yeah. I think I've already covered that. I think that I don't put much faith in any elected officials. I think even if the ones that start off with good intentions, I think they just easily get compromised. I think you have to make so many promises, and when you're campaigning, when you're raising all that money, you're beholden. You end up being beholden to those people that are funding you and supporting your campaign. And I just think you're so easily corrupted and captured by those interests that are propping you up. And then, well, it's so hard to tell with this kind of stuff, because everybody just is constantly just trying to exist in the attention economy. You know what I mean? It's like everybody is just like, look at me, look at this, whether they're a politician or they're an actor or actress. It's like, or a housewife down the street, like taking photos of what they're going to eat for dinner tonight. It's like everybody is just playing the social media, attention game.
Yeah, absolutely. It works. But yeah, it's the weird modern phenomenon in today's Congress. So I don't know. What else do I have on the docket? Do you struggle like me when you're trying to enjoy a WNBA game and it gets interrupted by fans throwing dildos on the court?
I have to say I've never watched a WNBA game. I assumed that it was just throwing dildos on the court.
No, this has been like the latest phenomenon. I think they started a trend now, and it's like the third one. I don't know if it's four. I think there was pictures of a fourth, but it didn't get thrown onto the court.
I mean, it probably doesn't cost much to get a ticket to a WNBA game, but like, how bored are you that your plan for the evening is, I'm going to go to the game and throw a dildo out on the basketball court? Like, how easily amused are you as a person? Or like, I don't know.
But if you see it once and then you're like, hey, I should go do that too at another local, WNBA game as well.
It's not my bag. I don't really get down with professional sports one way or another, but I feel bad for these girls. They're just trying to play a game. They're trying to do what they're trying to do their job. I wouldn't like if somebody started throwing dildos at me on stage. I would take offense to that.
Right. I suppose. Yeah, it's not a good idea. And it could definitely be dangerous out there when they're not looking. So anyway, I just thought that was...
Maybe it'll create like a new sport. Maybe that'll be like dildo ball or something. Will become a new...
There you go. Perhaps it'd be more entertaining than the regular WNBA.
Actually, getting called back to South Park, guys. Have you ever seen Basketball? It was
I love Basketball. I used to have it on VHS.
Was great. It is a great flick. Yep.
Yeah, the South Park movie, Orgasmo. Like I have not seen the Book of Mormon, but I think I've seen most of their other stuff. It's great. I mean, Trey Parker's a genius. Matt Stone is also, they're a great team, and they've had a great brand, and I like what they do, and perhaps they've sold out. They got the big money now from the big corporate, so I don't know, but I'll give them another try. So
even Cannibal the Musical, which was like their student film when they were at the University of Boulder, and they were like film majors. That was like their final project. It's great. And it's hilarious. You can find that on DVD. The commentary track on that is always stuck with me because it's so funny. Trey was dating like the lead actress, and she ended up leaving him for some guy that like owned like a Honda dealership or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the commentary, he's like, "Oh, how'd that work out for you, Shelly? I'm worth $1 million," and this whatever he was worth back then. He's like, "Oh, you're married to Ken, who owns the Kia dealership."
Wow. Okay. No, I did not know that. I'm gonna have to look that up. Because I mean, even just the first season of South Park was so groundbreaking. So yeah, they were way ahead of their time. So Interesting. Let's take a look at that. And all right, let's switch gears here. I think we've covered everything on the agenda. So we got to talk about music. So where to begin? Gene, you've been creating music for what, over 20 years? How did you get started and all that? And then how did it switch from kind of music and then integrating your activism? Where they both start together, or how did that evolve?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my parents listened to a lot of 60s rock, a lot of Beatles, Motown, Sinatra, Elvis, and those were kind of like the sounds I grew up with. And I really developed an affinity for like 60s rock, especially the Monkees and the Beatles and the Doors. And I think, and then also like Motown. I think a lot of that has kind of informed my songwriting and like how I like to craft melodies and approach songwriting. And also like, people like Carole King and Neil Diamond. And then from there, I went to a music school in Los Angeles. I went to MI, the Musicians Institute, which Eddie Van Halen was on the board of directors back in the 80s. It was like this big like shredder place. Everybody that wanted to be like Van Halen or Yngwie Malmsteen and Joe Satriani, they all went to school there. And I was like the odd man out because I just wanted to like focus on songwriting and learn the craft of that. But so from there, I lived in LA for a while, played music, played in some bands, did some of the stuff on the Sunset Strip. And then I ended up in Atlanta where I started Faithless Town. And it started as this like Americana project where we had pedal steel and we had a fiddle player. And it was very kind of like Graham Parsons alt country. And then from there, it just kind of became like a more eclectic project. And it just became the moniker for my music and my musical output. And so ever since then, I've had the lineup of the band has changed countless times. But it's, I always am the constant member and it's still like the vehicle for my songwriting. And so, yeah, now we are located in Tennessee. I relocated here just back in March. We've already played some great shows. Got to play the Third Eye Carnival that my friend Steve from AM Wake Up puts on. Got to share the stage with Ryan from The Last American Vagabond, my friend Spiderland, my friend Scott Armstrong from Rebunked. And then we just played the Underdog with some friends, some of our mutual friends, The Absurd.
Yeah.
We're friends of Josh and the crew there. And we're playing next week actually at Springwater. It's one of the oldest, it's supposedly the oldest continuously run bar in Tennessee. This place has been operating in one way or another since 1896. So if anyone's around August 14th, catch me in the band at Springwater in Nashville. It's called Springwater Supper Club and Lounge, but don't let the fancy name fool you. I think it's a very divey joint, but it should be fun.
No, that's cool. I would look forward to that. I might be an attendee as well, for sure. It'll be in my backyard, and hopefully we've got some people out there listening live or lurking or hearing the replay. Want to go check that out for sure. Yeah, I did catch you. That's where I met you the other week, and it's a great show. I got to catch part of that and meet you, so that was interesting. Yeah, it was meeting some like-minded people, and I find out you were on the Last American Vagabond show because I've been kind of following the Activist Post for a long time. They've been associated with that. I knew Derek Brose. In fact, I used to run a podcast right after him back in the day because he had his Conscious Resistance. He's always been in there. So I've kind of been in those circles. So I'm a big fan of Ryan Christian's work with T-Lav and of course like his collaborators Derek and Whitney Webb. So but yeah, I feel like I didn't answer one part of your question. You asked about at what point did my activism kind of enter my writing and my music, and I feel like that's always been a component of my songwriting. Like I've always really liked speaking of like 60s music, I love Dylan's
kind of protest music, John Lennon's kind of social, in commentary and some music. And so for me, like, there's never just been like a separation of those two things. So if there's something happening in the world that I feel very strongly about, like COVID, for instance, and the government's reaction to that and its effect it was having on the public, then I want to write about that, and it comes across in my music. And I see you got "Stand Together" is a single we put out last year, and that whole song is about, what I was talking about earlier, about real change is going to come from people coming together, organizing, putting our differences aside, just like you and I are in this podcast. We don't agree on everything. You still have a lot of hope in Trump, but I do not. I think he is part of the system. I think he is co-opted, but we can still have a conversation. We can still work together for things like, for the cause of liberty and freedom. So, and that's what this song is about. It's about people bonding together to fight, I think, the real evil, globalists and technocrats that have a plan to put us all in kind of a dystopian panopticon, technocratic prison of sorts.
Huh. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I kind of saw what was happening. We couldn't trust the media, that the two-party system was rigged, and that the only way, we were going to have to find some, way out of that. And that's when I started kind of speaking out, trying to help out. And that's what I got on the Activist Post. I've been published there a few times and started doing podcasts and going from there. And just, I never saw myself as an activist, but I saw it more of like a, survival mechanism, as like our future is going to be stolen from us, and we have to find some way to resist this, or now while we have a chance. And yeah, you're absolutely right about, the lockdown. I mean, they really wanted to make their move there. Fortunately, it took a long time, and it was terrifying there for a while, as they were really cracking down on people. And we saw what happened with in Canada or Australia, like the things that they wanted to. We could still be under the tyranny of a lockdown and waiting for our experimental jabs if the elites have their way. So, but I'll keep some hope for the Trumpster or something. But yeah, I realize this could also be a lost cause as well. But
I think the next few years are going to be really, really telling. I think a lot is, if you look at things like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and there's a plan. The United Nations, the World Economic Forum, they have an open plan to revolutionize, completely recreate the economies of the world and create something in, basically a one world order, a one world government, seizing of natural lands, of getting rid of private property. I mean, these are explicit goals of them. You'll like the WF and Klaus Schwab has said, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And you'll eat bug paste or whatever. You'll have a bug burger instead of eating beef anymore. So yeah, I think the only way, we have to work together. We have to be able to put our differences aside, even if we don't align on everything.
Yeah, definitely. We're on the same page with those goals, and I'm not going to go into cult follower territory with Trump either. So that's also, I guess, been refreshing, as it's not where the leftists tend to be in the total groupthink of just going along with everything. I think there's also the diversity within the MAGA community of the people that are the diehard loyalists versus the people that are more principled and just kind of see and try to hold Trump accountable to those principles. So it's interesting. It gives me some hope. But I mean, yeah, it's been a battle, man. I really thought we were gonna have won by now and this would be over, but it's a lot more difficult to reach people. And I wasn't aware as like the phenomenon of cognitive dissonance and how that affects people and how they, reject opinions, even though you can hit them with all of the truth and show them everything, they're still going to reject it and go to where they, the sources that they want to believe to confirm what they want to believe, their confirmation bias. So it's a struggle, but yes, I guess we're both trying to do our parts in our own way. So I don't know if you started 20 years ago. I know you've been making music. I did have this segment from one of your older albums, but just also show here, I just finally launched this podcast into Spotify so people can find it. So anyway, so that's it. So people want to listen on the audio, the Eccentric Perspective will now be available, and you can listen to that interview from Gene or any other. I'll try to stock the archive. I know, Gene, you also do a podcast from time to time as well.
I do,
so
yeah. It's called Live Free, the Live Free podcast with Owens, and I think I've done 5 episodes so far. It's been a little bit on a hiatus. I'm actually expecting my firstborn son in about a month, so I've been really busy with that, and also with the move to Nashville, and then still making music and assembling a new band here. I haven't had enough time to devote to the podcast as I would like, but I hope to get back to it soon. I've had some great guests on there, from my friend Tim Thompson to Winsome Kind, who I have collaborated with on some music. So yeah, to my friend Cozy 19, who's a really talented rapper, the hip hop artist and activist up in New York. He was like one of the strongest voices in NYC during the COVID lockdowns.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good. You got quite a nice community there of musicians and activists. So, all right. Well, let's want to run this video here. I prompted Grok to. Here's the podcast page here. But I prompted Grok last night to do a music blog for your video. So we'll go ahead and run it. So I guess people can watch it. Well, you can check out, make sure you follow Gene here on Faithless Town on Twitter, X, and the social media. But I do also have embedded the video. If that's okay, Gene, you can definitely double check the facts here.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out that blog. I wonder how accurate the Grok stuff is.
For sure. Yeah, please help me correct anything, and I'll fix it. But yeah, let's let your song rip. This is pretty good stuff here. So let's check this one out. And I remember you played this a couple weeks ago, right? With the
we did, yeah. We played this on that 4th of July.
I remember this that groove. So here we go.
Control the rock. coming, 'cause we're no longer sleeping. We're gonna stand together now. You better all go run to your bunkers. We're wide awake and getting stronger. You don't stand a chance against us now. You don't stand a chance against us now.
All right. All right. Awesome stuff, Gene. Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Love it.
Appreciate it.
No, it's quite the activist anthem there. So kudos.
I did read the blog post that Grok wrote, and I have to say it's pretty good. It's not bad.
Oh, okay, excellent. All right, I might change the thumbnail up a little bit, but we'll see. Yeah, otherwise that's good. I mean, that's a cool quote there. So, all right, cool. All right, well, thanks so much for being on the show. I think we're about at that time, right about the hour here. So, fantastic. I'll lead off. Let's do one more just quick question, I suppose. Before we let you go, just like looking ahead, what's next for Faithless Town and your activism? Are there new project tours or causes you're excited to tackle in 2025 and beyond?
Well, I think for me, it's continuing to play some shows locally, and then hopefully maybe we'll do more of a tour next year. Hopefully, I'm going to be focused on parenthood since I got a little one on the way. I'm excited. I already wrote a song for him, so I'm hoping to record that sometime soon. And so yeah, that's what's going to keep me busy, is being a dad, and continue to write and perform music. Like I said, we're playing next week, August 14th. If anybody is in the area, come check us out at Springwater in Nashville. And be sure to follow us on all the socials. We're at Faithless Town on everything. Our website's faithlesstown.com. We have all our music. We've got merch up there. We've got CDs for sale. I'm a big physical media guy, because at the end of the day, if you own a record or you own a CD and you have a way to play it, nobody can take that away from you unless they literally are like burglarizing your house. Whereas if you have stuff in the cloud, the cloud access can always be shut off. Or if you just have playlists on Spotify, they can terminate your account. But if you own physical media, they can't take it away from you. So, and it's also a great way to support independent artists like myself, to buy physical media and merch. I think we get about the same from one CD sale as we do from 3,000 streams of a song.
Yeah, so I almost hate promoting Spotify. I know it's bad. I have my whole music collection, and there's so many good stuff I've discovered over the years, but I hate the fact that they definitely screw the artists. But yeah, you got some great music. I mean, I'm just showing you. Here's on my like list. I've got over 2,000 songs. I just added Bride and Woke Town, Stand Together. I like New World Order. I'm just kind of digging into the catalog. So there's some great stuff in there, but I know it's probably better to promote you on Bandcamp. That's kind of the new thing. I'm hoping maybe there's some version of Spotify or another company can take over where you guys will get real money. I mean, I'd be happy to, even double, my subscription money for Spotify, something, just to find that happy medium. I don't know.
Yeah, well, here's a rabbit hole to go down for another time. But Spotify now is, I think, even creating AI bands that they own, and so people, and then they're adding them to their playlist, that they promote to you, like Discover Weekly and these things, and they're generating millions of streams, and that way they're just putting money right back into their own pocket by creating these AI fake bands and AI generated music, and then driving up streams by putting their artists on the playlist that people like to listen to discover new artists. And there's these AI bands that most likely are created by Spotify themselves. So they've just created like this cyclical way to just put money right back into their pocket and cut artists out of it altogether.
Oh, damn. Yeah. And they're probably, boosting them in the algorithms. I know they had that one AI band that came out and they had like one song, but it was very weird and generic. I mean, it was cool that it was AI, but I don't know how I would sit and actually like listen to that over and over. I don't really understand, but a lot of people have
It's getting frightening.
Tastes in music. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And thanks to your audience and everybody who's been commenting. And thanks again for having me on, Blake. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed our conversation. I dig that we can butt heads on certain things and still be civil and, and converse. That's what a polite society should be. I want to get back to that, where we can be friends with people, we can have conversations with others, that we don't have to align on every specific political and social issue. And we can get back there. And hopefully one day the leftists and the woke cult can come back to some sense of civility too.
Yeah, it's changed a lot, because I would say I'm a lifelong liberal, and I was hardcore Democrat for so long, up until late 90s or so. But just the way that the party has changed so much in the last 20 years. Because I was on, the Cynthia McKinney in 2008, the activist, and the Ron Paul movement. And I've always kind of tried to vote just, whoever I thought was.
I have to say, Cynthia, I haven't checked in on her in a while, but Cynthia McKinney was pretty based when it came to the COVID stuff.
Oh yeah, she's amazing, and they got rid of her, and there hasn't been. The Democratic Party is a shell of what they used to be 20 years ago, and so many of the people have just gone so far left, and they're just the TDS and the woke stuff. It's really been bad. So hopefully they'll find some way to reinvent themselves and come to the table and just have these this discussion. So we shall see. I'll try to hold that optimism. But Gene, it was great to have you. I appreciate you. I love your music, and I will we'll have to try to do this again sometime. Political or music or what have you.
Awesome, Blake. Well, thanks again, man.
Thank you, everybody else, Deb and TK Mark, and anybody out there lurking, listening to the replay. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with the regular show, 3 o'clock Central Time. But for now, that's all I've got. So let's pull the plug on this one, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much.